Lesson 1.1, Graphing Linear Equations and Slope. Linear equation refers to an equation that forms a straight line. So linear means straight. Slope is a part of an equation that describes rise over run. And we'll talk about that shortly. We're going to talk about graphing linear equations by creating a table. And they tell us what our values should be. I'll zoom in a little bit. And they want us to use -3 to 3. So -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. And what this is telling us is that it would like us to take the value that we have for x, so in this case -3, plug it into the x position of our equation and see what we get. So in this case we'd have y equals -3 parentheses, and we're going to plug in a -3 plus 4. So y will equal 9 plus 4, or in other words 13. And that will go in our y position. This should be a review, but this is how you would find your y values. And if we follow that same pattern by plugging in a -2, we'll get a 10. If we plug in a -1, we'll get a 7. Plug in a 0 and we'll get a 4. Plug in a 1 and we'll get a 1. A 2 will give us a -2, and a 3 will give us -5. When we plot those points, we cannot plot -3, 13 because we'll be up here somewhere. We can plot -2, 10, -1, 7, which will be about here, 0, 4, 1, 1, 2, -2, and 3, -5. And that is our line when graphed. And that's just using those points, of course. We could plug in many more. Alright, our next one. We have, again, a similar situation. We're going to plug in our values from -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. If we plug in a -3 here, we will have y equals, that's a 2, sorry, 2/3 times -3 minus 2. Now, 2/3 times -3 is like 2/3 times -3 over 1, where you take top times top. So 2 times -3 is -6. Bottom times bottom, 3 times 1, we get that, minus 2. -6 divided by 3 is -2, minus 2, and we get -4. If we plug in a -2, we will get -3. If we plug in a -1, oops, I'm sorry. If we plug in -2 in, we're going to get -3.3 repeating, or -3 1/3. -1 will give us -2.6 repeating. 0 will give us -2. 1 will give us -1.3 repeating. 2 will give us -0.6 repeating. And 3 will give us 0. If we plot those points, -3 gives us -4 right there. -2 gives us -3 1/3, so we'll be approximate. -1 gives us -2 2/3. 0 gives us -2. And so on. So our line will be about like that. If I go ahead and finish that. and that is our line through those 2 points. Now, here we have, again, if we were to plug in, I'm going to zoom in here. If we were to plug in -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3, there's no place to plug an x in. So in other words, it's going to stay, no matter what we plug in, we will get -3. Now this is called a special case scenario where it's either going to be a vertical line or a horizontal line. And if we just plot 2 points, we'll know exactly what it is. So -3 gives us -3. -2 gives us -3. And so on. So no matter what point we plug in, it doesn't have any effect on it, so we will have a horizontal line. Alright, next one, again a similar situation where we have an x value of 2. Now if we look at the first case scenario where it was y equals -3 and it is a horizontal line, then we can look at the case x equals 2 and think of it as a vertical line. And in this case, the horizontal line always had a y value of -3. In this case, down here, our line will always have an x value of 2, no matter what. An x value of 2 means it'll always be here. So if we were to describe those points, I could easily pick, oops, pardon me, I'm in the wrong place totally. I'm going to take this off of here. A +2. Sorry about that. So it's right here. So I could easily pick some points and say 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2, 5, 2, 6, and 2, 7 are all these points on this vertical line. And this ends the first part of Lesson 1.1.